you tell us how long will it take precisely, specifically, to complete the Ogoni cleanup?
For you to stop this, you need to understand, people involved need to understand the risk, the problem that this poses to themselves and the larger society. And that is something you need to put in the design for you stopping them from going further. And how do you do that? You weigh the risks to the alternatives we want to provide. So the way forward is we are coming up with alternative livelihood and training program for the people who participate in this. And that's what we intend to do. And recently, the acting president has also pronounced modular refineries for the communities in the Niger Delta.
You have raised the issue of modular refineries as one of the interventions now, but the inhabitants are complaining of being denied modular refineries license.
Well, you see, I don't understand how we begin to criticize what is not yet in existence. We are still at the stage where this is being implemented. I mean, the planning is ongoing, and we want to get input from all the people involved, and that is the process where we are. So how do you start criticizing what is still at the planning stages and what it is that is intended for Max to deliver maximum benefit to the people?
Okay, how many residents, how many indigenes of Ogoni are being given modular refinery license?
Well, I think there are questions I stand here to answer. The mandate of HYPREP, I will tell you, is remediation of environment and restoration of livelihood. Now, there are things that we will have to work together to do. As government, there are departments responsible for that. And I think what you're talking about is a question that could be directed to the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. So for what we need to do here, we know that the government have made that pronouncement, and we are working with the authorities involved in that to bring maximum benefit to those artisanal refiners in Ogoni land and across the Niger Delta.
We understand there is a funding challenge of the Ogoni cleanup.
Well, again, the funding for the project and the source of the funding is clearly defined in the report. It's coming from the IOCs. And that is clearly stated. So the IOCs have also made their commitment, and the government has made their commitment to the funding of the project. So that is what I can tell you. There is a commitment from the IOCs, there is a commitment from the government for the funding of the project.
It's understood that the cleanup will be done by the JV partners, the IOCs will be providing the counterpart funding, and the government represented by the NNPC. Could you explain how this would work?
Well, I think, again, the funding, as defined, as clearly stated, the IOCs and the government are doing this together. That's the much I can say about it. The technicalities of how that is done is not available to me, and what I can tell you is that there's commitment from the government and there's commitment from the IOCs to provide funding for the project.
Would $1 billion be enough for this entire project?
Well, in the report, because we are working with two documents. One is the UNEP report itself, and two is the Gazette of HYPREP. Now, the way it is structured is that the starting fund for the project, as recommended in the report, is that we will need $1 billion to get started. Now, over the years as we proceed, there will be need for other funding. The way the HYPREP is structured, the Board of Trustees has a mandate to collect not only the $1 billion, but also source for funding from other sources to support and complement what is coming from the IOCs, including getting further funds from the IOCs.
Do you have a clear cut on the amount that will take to complete this project?
You have to understand it this way. First of all, two mandates I told you of HYPREP. One is remediation of the environment, two, livelihood. The livelihood component was not captured in the report, not much. And the funding from that is something that through the governing structure of HYPREP, the BOT will be able to source from elsewhere to also support what we need to do on livelihood.
35 billion naira has been injected as part of the amnesty deal. Does this have any connection? Would this assist the HYPREP project in any way?
Well, amnesty and HYPREP are completely two different things, different projects, and that their funding are not in any way interrelated.
Shell is going to town to announce to the public that it has remitted $10 million of its own counterpart funding. How much of government commitment has been demonstrated towards this project? How much has government committed towards this project?
Well, we see the funding as one body, people who are putting this money together as one. So if the people who are providing the fund, being the government and being the IOCs, together say they put together money, we believe this money came from all of them in their proportion as stipulated in the JV. So it's money that came from all of them.
So you don't have a clear gazette of how much each of the counterpart funding partners have invested into this project?
The JV is something that comprises of NNPC that represent the government, that comprises of the IOCs together. And if they put together money, and this is something that all of them are part of it, and then you say, okay, this person didn't bring money. How do you know who brought money and who didn't bring the money? But it's something that is from the joint purse. So I don't want to be dragged into how funding is done. My job is to implement the report, and I would like to be guided in that direction, please.
Before we wind down on this conversation, you came to this interview with a high-sounding technical note, and you're leaving this interview now with a high-sounding technical note. Now, does that mean that the people will be groping in the dark on this after this interview?
No. What I've come to, the important message that I've come to deliver is that the Ogoni project is a critical project for the remediation of the Niger Delta. Not only Ogoni, but Niger Delta, because it's the template on which all other parts of the region will be remediated. So it's important that we take our time and get the processes right, get the foundation right, and make sure that all the building block that we need to do this in terms of the studies is done right. And we shouldn't be in a hurry to make mistakes, and that we have to communicate to the community and let them understand that this process is going to take time. The project coordination office only started in April, and as of today we have sites, demonstration sites open across all 4 LGAs. There are sensitization going on. We've done training of youths. We are talking to UNITA for doing training for the women. We are also talking to the artisanal refiners so that we could also structure training. There is the possibility, which we are discussing, of bringing in the modular refineries even into the region. So there's so much that we've done in three months, and so much is coming. The entire budget is strategic budget for the rest of this year and next year, and one for the first 5 years is going to be out soon. So we are talking, and we do have a plan which we are following religiously, and we will deliver the results and we'll deliver the report to Ogoni people and the Niger Delta, that the commitment of the federal government to doing this unwavering.
The project coordinator, Hydrocarbon Pollution Remediation Project, HYPREP, Mr. Dekil Marvin, thank you so much for making our time to be part of this episode of Question Time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
And that's it on this episode of Question Time. How would you assess federal government's implementation of the Ogoni cleanup? Send us a comment on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Join us next week for a fresh episode of the show on Channels Television. Many thanks for watching. I'm Benga Ashuru. Bye for now.